All right, hello everybody. This is Man Alone, and I am a man alone. And we are going to be talking solo RPGs today. And in addition to readings from Warhammer and maybe selections from other books, the other thing that I want to use this channel for, in fact, my primary motivation in creating this channel and the naming of it was to do solo RPG content. It is one of the things that I like to do. I do like to roleplay in groups, but I also like to roleplay on my own. And I am forever in search of the ideal solo role-playing game. For this reason, I am in fact creating my own. And it's something between a solo RPG and a solo board game. And so when I'm ready to talk about that, I would love to talk about it on this channel. But until then, my plan is to put out some content so as to seduce you into following my channel. So by the time that I release my own, it's this sort of natural, smooth transition, and doesn't it all feel like a total shill that I'm just doing all of these videos, all of this content, so I could sell my own solo RPG and make millions. Because really, that's the first thing you need to know about solo RPGs and solo board games is that if you are looking to be a millionaire, a billionaire, even a trillionaire, you really want to get into the solo RPG game. The margins are incredible. We're talking $1 to $2 per copy. So that's what I hope to do going forward. But what I hope to do in the immediate future is get the lighting and sound right for these videos. So I have a bit of a janky setup here, and I would like to see how it looks and how it sounds. And so rather than making some videos of my own and then just like watching them back and crying to myself, I figured that I would do a little bit of an overview on some of the solo RPGs that I play, and give maybe a little bit of a review on them, talk about them a little bit, and then if you'd like to watch that, and especially if you'd like to give me any feedback on how the video looks or how the sound is, that would be great. I'm working on a bit of a shoestring budget. It's not because I'm poor, but it's because it's a matter of investment, priority. What do I want to prioritize in my life? Do I want to spend all of my money on microphones and lighting and cameras if what I do is not of any value to anybody? So without further ado, I just want to show you my setup a little bit. So obviously for solo RPGs, we need a nice selection of dice. And so this is sadly 1/95th of my selection of dice that I have. And this is sort of a portable dice box that I have, dice tray, I guess you can call it, that I use to roll. And this is really good. I enjoy this one a lot because it does close, it is portable, and one of the things that I enjoy about solo RPGs is the ability to play them wherever you are. The other things that I use, obviously, pen and pencil and eraser. I also use playing cards, and I used to not like the inclusion of playing cards at all in role-playing games. I'm not sure why. It just seemed, I don't know if tacky is the right word. It just seemed like it wasn't the kind of mechanic that I wanted. I do play card games. I played Magic the Gathering. Never got into like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a little bit past my time. Yeah. I was too old to play it, I guess is what I want to say. But I do play MTG and would love to play other ones. But it was something about using the deck that didn't appeal to me until it did. Until I read a few RPGs where it really clicked for me in terms of using this deck and expanding it and allowing it to morph throughout the game with different reference tables. And so in addition to enjoying that mechanic for some RPGs that I play, I also have included it, hopefully, fingers crossed, to great effect in my own. So yeah, that's my little kit I use right here, a couple bit of note cards. And then I really like this Lockbee, and in fact, let's see if here this is like an experimental piece. Let's see if this works. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, I just want to use this magnifier sometimes when I find stuff that might be nice to zoom in on. And this lockbee is a really nice setup here because you're able to put some different notes in here and field notes and stuff like that, and zip it all up, keep a pen in there and handy. And then also I just generally use a kind of like a notebook like this to write notes in as well. And so those, that right there is my playing kit in addition to whatever the book or the guide is that I'm using. I think a lot of people use the Mythic GM emulator, and I don't use that as much. I prefer to RPG. When I'm role playing, I prefer to pull some of the ideas out of my mind into the deep recesses of my mind. And speaking of which, if you are interested in solo play, this by Geek Gamers here is a great guide, a great overview. It really surprised me, in addition to like strategies and principles and tables and stuff like that, there's a lot here on the philosophy of doing it, which I really enjoyed because the solo RPG, the big question we have to ask ourselves is why are we doing it, right? Because there's so many different options to entertain yourself that to be honest are facilitated much more easily, right? You could pick up a Nintendo Switch, you can sit and watch a TV, you can go and play an RPG with others if that's available, or play it online, multi MMORPGs online. And so the question we have to ask ourselves is like, why are we doing this? Why are we solo RPGing, right? And there's a lot of stuff in here that is really good, just in terms of what exactly it is that we're doing. And the thing I like a lot here is this addenda. Is this focusing? Or is this... Okay, yeah. And this addenda has this like very interesting section on like what a dungeon is and what a dungeon means. And it was really interesting reading this because, I think it's a fair point that we don't think about a lot, which is that like, what is a dungeon? Like, have you been in a lot of dungeons in your life? I know there are some like contexts to think of that word, torture or other things. And I think that, yes, okay, those are dungeons. But like, if we think of the dungeon that we use in role-playing games, it's fascinating in that it is truly this underground world, right? If you were to truly go to a medieval dungeon, the ceilings would probably be 7 feet high, and the entire dungeon would be about the size of like maybe a 2-bedroom apartment. And yet the dungeons that we imagine that are in video games that we play, they're maybe square miles, right? And ruins and all this stuff. And what a fantastical place that very few of us have ever been. I've not been in miles of underground ruins. And certainly not ones with cryptozoological beings in there. And yet we all have a sense of what a dungeon is. And so part of the thing put forward in here, and I know that Geek Gamers is kind of drawing on a lot of different individuals who she quotes on this, but the dungeon is our head. The dungeon is our mind, right? The dungeon is an exploration of ourselves, because everything, there might be a dice roll, there might be an input from an oracle, but ultimately we are traveling into the subterranean zone of our head, right? And for this reason, this is the truly generative reason of solo gameplay, is I think it's very therapeutic. I think it's like a form of self-hypnosis. I have surprised myself in terms of the ideas, the connections, the characters, just the things, the stories that I've taken in a million directions, and I'm saying, how in the hell is this going to come together? And yet somehow it does, because my subconscious was working on it the whole time. And I just think that's incredible. So I do recommend this if you're curious about solo gaming, Solo Game Master's Guide. I suppose it's also the Solo Player's Guide, as you are one and the same. But you don't have to pick that up. I do recommend either way that you watch Geek Gamers channel, and it would be a good way to support them. Basic piece of the solo game, the one that has the most straightforward approach, I would say, is like the more like OSR, old school Renaissance or old school revival games. And Basilisk is one such example of that. It's compatible with Morgborg. That I love Morgborg, although sometimes Morgborg can be very Morgborgish, if you know what that means. Like sometimes you'll be referencing something in Morgborg or Cyborg, and then it will say, if you roll 1d10 and you get a 5, then you get 2 pieces of meat. If you roll more than that, you get 3 pieces of meat. And if the animal's bigger, well, just however many pieces of meat you think. It has a lot of stuff like that, whatever seems right. Which I like. I do on one hand really like that because, again, it allows me to kind of plumb into the depths of my mind and surprise myself. But at the same time, it's like, oh, God, Morgborg. Yeah, I can't deny it, though. Like, I love the aesthetic, everything. These guys are so cool. Their stuff is so inventive. And they really have opened so much up to people. This is an example of it, is Basilisk. I haven't played this yet because there's this weird thing that happens with some materials that I get where, like, I don't want to corrupt them. Now, I know I can copy this, but I just love how this looks. I love the possibility of this. And let me say, that is something for solo RPG players that is going to be a big problem, is that the lust after the game itself sometimes supersedes the desire to play it. And so you will really, really crave getting a game, and then you'll get it, and you'll read through it, and you'll fantasize about playing it, and then you'd never play it. And what I like to say is, like, that's okay if it happens. I do push you to set a schedule, set some time to play for yourself. But reading and pretending and imagining, that's a great part of it, okay? So Basilisk is developed by 1D10 plus 5. And this package, I just, as with everything Morgborg adjacent, is just so gorgeous. I just had to have this, this black envelope here. And inside it has, the main rules here, and this is a kind of different mission. Now, this, I should say, is not related to Morgborg. I guess it's just sort of based on the open gaming license, which they're very generous with, but it is not necessarily, well, it is not a Stockholm Cartel production. So this is a tile set that comes with it, and you'd cut these up, and you have different assets, like things that you can encounter while you're traveling through the dungeon, and different board to progress through it, different pieces here. And you can imagine just kind of cutting this up and putting this in place and having the different tiles meaning different things, and random organization. There we go. That's like what every different thing means. And then once you cut up all those pieces, they give you just like these little bags here to put them in, which is nice. And over here, we just have the sort of plain board, which we would put everything on. So now this is a sort of an OSR game, right? And it is like sort of brutally elemental. It's got what you need in it, and not much more than that. And that's great. I never want stuff like that to go away, because sometimes, and I'm learning this as I develop my own games, sometimes the more you have, it just starts to be too much. And truly, sometimes it makes it just like the barrier to entry gets so high that you just don't even feel like playing it. And so, it's really refreshing sometimes to play a game that's like a couple weapons, a couple enemies, you're progressing towards a goal, and I think that's really cool. So that's like one facet of that. Okay. And you have something like 96 Quest. This is another, I got a bit of a glare there. Let me try and move this out of the way. This is another game that keeps it pretty simple. And it is a dice management game, so you're going to be rolling a lot of dice, which I do like sometimes, and sometimes I feel overwhelmed by rolling out a big batch of dice and counting them up and stuff like that. But this game makes it pretty simple. It has some different terrains here that have some different features. And they basically play on this game of like fresh dice, tired dice, wounded dice, dead dice, in which you are rolling and you are pulling away any dice that are wounded and using fresh dice for your attacks. To the authors of this, Andrea Filagoy and Andrea Grassi, I'm sorry if I'm not doing this justice. It has been a while since I played this. But again, this is a game that's pretty simple to get through. It has a lot of awesome pictures inside. And, it's just scratches that itch and kind of presents that challenge of exploration and meeting different foes and getting some new loot and magic items and stuff like that, and has different areas that you could travel to. And so I think that is can be pretty cool. Okay, so moving along, similar kind of things. We have 4 Against Darkness. 4 Against Darkness is a dungeon delving pen and paper game, and this game is, I think, unique in that you are actually controlling multiple characters. And it also has a lot of these different room shapes, which are pretty easy to put together. And then there are some rules about like dead ending and stuff like that. And different options within the room. And I was very inspired by 4 Against Darkness as I'm making my own game. There's like a little gnat flying in front of me. As I was making my own game, I think there was like a lot of cool ideas in here in terms of dungeon creation. I do not use like a visual dungeon system, but just the idea of having that feeling of immersion and going through it, and having a pretty simple setup. This is unbelievable. I have this is like little gnat flying in front of me. Maybe a fruit fly. Next video, I'll throw away that sad banana over there. Yeah, so these are, you're going to have armor, spells, different weapons. You're going to be able to search rooms. Monsters will have like different weaknesses, and a lot of different options and customization. So a lot of people like 4 Against Darkness. I actually should play that more. A game I haven't played by Blackwell Games, but I just know that Anna Blackwell here is so creative and puts out so much cool stuff. This is Delve, and there is also these 2 other solo games, Rise and Umbra by Anna Blackwell. And first of all, just like the layout of this is so aesthetically pleasing. There's just so many like little nooks and crannies in every picture, and allow you to have such like a feast of visuals. And this one's pretty interesting because you're actually going to be like building out a dungeon. The idea is you will have like a dungeon that looks like this, and that you'll be able to recruit different like soldiers and have different things in the room. And now this is I was talking about games that convinced me of using playing cards. This was it. This was the big one here, because I started to see the options here as you use different suits in addition to using the different cards. And it was just really sleek. Like, it worked really well. And this kind of uses a currency system. You got traps and barricades here, different natural formations. Look, you have the options with the cards. It just worked really well. And I just really appreciated that. It really opened my mind to the idea that this could be fun to do that. So that one's pretty cool. This one, another one, very beautiful. The soundtrack to this is I still listen to it. It is so good and so eerie and so gorgeous. This is Thousand Empty Light. It's a solo mothership manual. And this was made by Alfred Valley. And this is really interesting. This is, I would say, plays with the genre in a way that I really appreciate, in that this is really, you're supposed to look at this as like a manual to the operation that you are doing. And so it's not going to walk you through it. And because of that, it's almost like you have to unlock it. You know, you have to determine what things mean and how to deal with things as if you were that person. And that's a huge part of games like this, are this feeling of immersion, of being or becoming something else. This was always really interesting. It almost was like overwhelmed me, but also one of the reasons I bought it, just these combined system semiotic standards, and you sort of consult these as an oracle, which I really like, because they're both like system warnings, you know, so they have this familiarity to them, but at the same time there's a bit of like a Rorschach ink blot quality to them, where, you know, you can see a variety of things in here, you know, like right here, what could that be? Okay, it's like that could be like, you know, people standing in an elevator, or it can be like the fear of people pursuing you, right? Or the fear of being cornered. And right under it says high activity civilization labor, right? And that's a sort of no but, if you can see that. It's a no but. So it provides different like prompts for that. So just really imaginative. Again, if you can get the soundtrack, I think it's I actually need to look it up, because I want more people. It's Gus Before Christ, and it's called Sleeping in a Drowning Stone, and it's incredible, and it's compatible with Mothership, which if you haven't played, it's sci-fi horror RPG, is one of the first RPGs besides D&D that I got fascinated with. So check out Thousand Empty Light. Let's see here. Okay, The Crushing Dark is another game that uses cards, and this is by Madeline Ember. And this is a journaling game, and I really want to get into journaling games. I really do, because, again, initially I was a little bit resistant to it, but this one uses, it's a Wretched and Alone game, which is based on The Wretched by Chris Bissett. And you use this playing card. You're also supposed to use stones, which you like stack, and this is similar to like what other people have done with Jenga towers. You know, you got to play as this method of seeing when things fall apart, and the art is just, I mean, gorgeous. Like, just take a minute to look at that. My goodness. And based on the different cards that you draw, there's like these different prompts that you have, and you know, every time an event happens of a certain kind, I forget, you have to put a stone on it. And so there's some other solo RPGs that I haven't tried yet. Map labeling is another sort of genre of solo RPGs I haven't tried yet. I got this one from my partner. Again, this is this kind of like intricate sketch art that looks so cool. I'd really like to play this. And so, yeah, I want to be clear. You know, I haven't played all of these super in depth, but I wanted to show some of them anyways, because on this episode, I just kind of wanted to show the different possibilities of what you can do with solo RPGing. So this one involves like map labeling. And, you know, I think what also would be pretty good use of this and a lot of other solo RPGs is like when you want to develop something for use in another RPG, whether that be a group or solo RPG. And in this one, you can create a village and determine stories for all of the different parts of it, and who lives there and what's going on. So this is Beak, Feather, and Bone, and I do want to just see. Okay, it's Tyler Crumrine, map by Jonathan Yee, illustrations by Austin Breed. So yeah, this is a game that I would actually like to play, but since I got it for my girlfriend, I want to make sure that we play that together first, because I'm so sweet. All right. Okay, I'm going to save that one. Another journaling RPG, which currently right now seems to be the industry standard, you know, the one that all others aspire to, is 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. I love this kind of art, this sort of like reclaimed art, taking stuff that some of this stuff, I don't know if some of it's illustrations, but others is just kind of detritus, marginalia. I'm not coming up with the right word here, but it's basically like reclaimed art, taking sort of maybe classic art that's out of print or out of copyright, I should say, and reusing it or changing it and arranging it in a way that, like, what I appreciate about this is, like, this is immersive. I'm picking up a very unique document here, and you're playing this role-playing game where you're playing a vampire. You have, like, resources, memories, and characters that you encounter. And as you move through the game, you answer these prompts. I don't want to show the prompts because I don't want to spoil anything. You move through the game, you answer these prompts, and sometimes you're directed to, like, lose different memories. And you play until you've kind of lost it all. And what a lot of people say is, as they're playing through this, it really is incredible. It's sort of feeling like you're losing that grip on those things, and that you're not able to keep it together, and imagining how your mind would fragment would you live this long. Again, I really am yet to crack the journaling RPG, and I don't want to decry it because I just think it's such a great idea. And honestly, I think about ways with the RPG that I'm creating to actually incorporate a journaling aspect into it more, because I think there's so much possibility here, but it does require a lot of there's like a barrier to entry in my mind of, like, okay, I'm about to sit down and type someone else's journal for 2 hours. And so if you're someone that is not writing all the time, I think this would be a lot easier. As I'm a game designer, and for my job as well, I'm typing, thousands of words on a daily basis. So the idea to sit down and play through this, it just seems like a bit of investment. And so what I'm planning on doing is, when I have some time after I finish my current project, I'd like to sit down and play a real game of this, because there's like an abridged version of it where you just kind of fill out the minimum, and you don't fill up a lot of flavor in your memories. But I would like to play the full version of it. I'd really like to create something gorgeous there. Something I don't want to forget is game books. I do enjoy game books, and this is a good one, Destiny Quest by Michael J. Ward. There are also these Legendary Kingdoms are out now. Both of these are really, really good. Compared to, I remember opening like a Lone Wolf when I was a kid, and I just had no idea what was going on. I was way too little to be playing it. These games can be really addictive as you play through it. Destiny Quest specifically has a really snappy system, and you can carry your character over. Like, this is the second book, and the character you create in the first book you could use in the second book. Legendary Kingdoms is going to have more of an actual tabletop RPG feel to it. Man, it just has so many different entries. I will say it's pretty hard. It's a pretty hard game. I lose a lot, which I was very surprised at. But I've heard that I'm not alone in that. If you like a lot of crunch and details, and this has its built-in oracles, we have Scarlet Heroes by Kevin Crawford. I really don't care for the illustrations on this. I don't want to disparage the illustrator. I think it is good illustrations. I'm just not a fan of this. Specifically this front piece here. I don't know if they were trying to make this look like a budget comic book for when I was a kid, but this just does not inspire a lot of excitement in me. The game itself has like some really cool options, and the back part of it has wonderful, wonderful oracles to use for treasure generation. All different kinds of items, magical items. It gives you a really good guide on creating adventures, drawing out maps, and has this whole section on solo gaming here, which I would venture to say that most people who pick up Scarlet Heroes are doing it for solo gaming. Lots of good oracles here to put together a really good adventure. Wilderness events. Yeah, this is really good and not too expensive either. Again, I really think this is good art. It's not for me, so I don't want to say anything negative about the artist. Another is Colossal. This is another kind of one that's really popular right now. Also has an art style that I think is really beautiful, but it doesn't. Something about it. It feels like it is lowering the stakes of the adventure. It seems very. You know what? I mean, you really got to go out of your way to say something bad about something this beautiful. It's just, I don't know. It just doesn't connect with me because I think the game is really cool and has a lot of potential, but whenever I play it, I just feel like I get taken out of it a little bit by the illustrations, which just don't. They seem to take away a lot of the stakes of what's going on. Like people are really smiling and just, yeah, maybe I'm a jerk. But this is a very simple card-based game. Again, I really want to take another look at this. There's an expansion called Roomlands, and one of the reasons I did not get into it a lot the first time is because that was in my not liking playing cards phase, which I hope I am beyond now. Last thing I want to mention before the final one is Vermis. If you can get your hands on this, this is one of the you want to talk about an art style that does connect with me, and I guess this is, I guess I'm just, I hate to be a bro. I mean, this is like 8-bit. This is like 8-bit fantasies from when I was a kid in Nintendo, just like 1998 plus Super Nintendo plus Metallica's my favorite band, like equals this, and this is not a game. I should say that about Vermis. Vermis is an instruction guide to a game that doesn't exist, which, if that sounds weird to you, I understand, but I did want to mention it because stuff like this, man, do I wish this game existed, but stuff like this is such a great place to fill up your mind with ideas that you could use in solo RPG playing. And I want to say that as sort of a general thing here is that if you want to learn how to get better ideas for solo role playing, you need to go live, right? Because that's the inputs. The output, is the actual play, but the input is your different life experiences that help you make those connections and play with things in different ways. Ironsworn Starforge, this is one I played several times. I played it by myself and cooperatively. And, this is a Powered by the Apocalypse system, which in group play I do not like. But in solo play, this works really well. And this is Sean Tompkin. And this game has so many cool options, especially as you're setting up your play. You're going to create the world that you're in. You're going to make a vow. It's going to teach you how to create different stakes and figure out what your relationships are and how to track your progress and how to feel a sense of accomplishment and ownership. And look at all this cool stuff in terms of these diagrams. I must say, and this is a thing that comes up often, sometimes there's an uncanny valley here with some of these illustrations that are both like illustrated and photographed. It feels like, maybe I'm wrong, either that or they're the best pictures I've ever seen. And a lot of them are, it just kind of takes me out of it, man. I just don't, like, and then you have these that are hand drawn or computer drawn, and they look so rad. And don't get me wrong, I mean, these are really good pictures, but it's almost like it just takes me out of it sometimes when there's a switching back and forth between art styles. But that is truly one of the few criticisms that I have to this game, and I think this is kind of controversial, but I would recommend that you start with a game like this, because this is a game that is really focused on the narrative and creating the narrative. And if you're a solo RPG player, the narrative is so important, because if you're just looking at the stats and winning and whatever, then what's the point of playing a solo RPG game? You can just be playing a board game. So anyways, that's my intro. Let me know how it went.